Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Assalamu alaikum. I'm very happy to see you all here for this first event of Islamic Finance Professional Association. I think just from what I see, it is already very successful. Successful because most of you, I don't know you, and usually when we talk about Islamic finance in Luxembourg, I probably have met a lot of people who are working in that field and who are interested in that field. So this first event today is for us a way to introduce our association and also to start with a positive wave in the Islamic finance for 2013 and also for the coming years. This evening's program is very simple. We have first our guest speaker, Jean-Luc Karleskind, who will talk to you and to us about Islamic finance and about one aspect that we usually disregard when it comes to Islamic finance here in Luxembourg, which is the social aspect of it. I think Jean-Luc has traveled the world and has seen Islamic finance in different countries, and he will tell us what is his experience and also what we can get from Islamic finance to maybe improve society. Well, that's a question to which he will try to answer, I guess. After that, we will have a panel session with the founders of this association who will share with you their experience and also will try to give you the status of Islamic finance in Luxembourg and elsewhere. And we will conclude this event with a Q&A and then a networking event where we will try to know each other a bit more. So just before I give the floor to Jean-Luc, I had a 15-page speech to do. Well, no, actually, it's only one page. But and I'm looking at it because before coming here, I thought, when I saw that there were more than 100 people registering for this event, I thought, what are these people coming for? What is your interest in Islamic finance? What is my interest in Islamic finance? You know, it can come from several ways, I think. Sometimes you have a neighbor who tells you that he cannot buy a house because he cannot get an Islamic loan. And you don't understand. You are not Muslim and you don't understand why. I just go to the bank, I show him that I can bring him money, can put money on a bank account, I get a loan, I buy my house and I'm happy. So why is this person, my neighbor, not able to buy a house because he cannot get Islamic finance? That might be one of the questions that brings you here. The other question might be, okay, now I have Qatari shareholders. I'm in a big trouble. I do only conventional financing. I deal with interest every day, and now I have a shareholder that might fire me because I'm doing interest. So that might be also another question that you're asking yourself, trying to save your job, right? And then the other questions might be from an intellectual perspective. I have people here talking to me about Islamic finance being more resilient to these crises that we have seen. So maybe there is something good in this finance that I should know about. Maybe I'm interested by that. Maybe, even if I'm not Muslim, maybe there is an interest to understand intellectually why this finance is more resilient. So that can be another valid question. And I think that, I don't have the answers, of course, but I think that this shows exactly why we have set up this association. This is an association which aims at grouping together people that have an interest in Islamic finance, that are professionals in the finance, and who want to share, develop this knowledge, and also, try to be a mean for Luxembourg to develop Islamic finance, to attract more people to do this kind of business here, if it's a valuable business, if it's a valuable finance. So after these few words, I would like to give the floor to Jean-Luc, our guest speaker today, and thank you very much for coming again.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Rashid. I think for the first event of the IFPA, there were two ways to address this. One was to say how great, how resilient, how sound, how growing, how big Islamic finance is. And the other way was to say, to make you think. So I've decided to go for the second one. Now, size still matters, because Islamic finance nowadays is $1,000 billion worth of assets. Now, just to make things simple, because 1 billion, nobody understands what 1,000 billions are. So typically people talk about trillion when we talk about that. This is one with 12 zeros behind, right? So some say Islamic finance is growing 15% a year, so by 2015 we will be at 1.5 trillion. And Rushdie Siddiqui from Thomson Reuters, he even says we will reach a 2 trillion bar very soon. And we say, wow, that's great, huh? But who has an idea of what is the size of this very bank that hosts us today? What is the size of the balance sheet of BNP Paribas? Who knows? Any idea? BNP Paribas' balance sheet is 2.5 trillion. So this bank alone is more than twice the 300 Islamic finance institutions in the world. And there are 30 animals like this one in the world, which are called the systemic banks, you know, the ones that have been identified by the G20 as being too big to fail. So this one alone is more than all Islamic finance. Now you might say, come on, wait a minute. We are in fixed income here. We're talking about Sukuk in Luxembourg. I think I make a mess here with the computer, but so okay. So we are in fixed income, Sukuk, and Sukuk now, as the same study I read from Reuters, says Sukuk now 400 billion issued since 1995, and in the last 2 years, 250 billion, which means quite a growth like the hockey stick, right? A lot, great. What is the Eurobonds market alone, only euro-denominated bonds, per year? 2 trillion, 2,000 billion. So Islamic finance against Sukuk is 5% of this. Now, from that, we can draw two conclusions. One, Islamic finance has still an enormous potential for growth. And two, it is still a drop in the ocean of conventional finance. Now, okay, this is now to start the picture, but still, with 1 trillion worth of assets, there is still something, right? It's not nothing. And so we should still see that it's big enough to make a difference. Now, what is that difference? Let's start with the UK, because we have 5 full-fledged Islamic banks in the UK, and plus another number of conventional banks that also give Islamic finance products. And what is the situation in the UK? Well, the leading bank is the Islamic Bank of Britain, IBB, makes losses since the creation in 2004. HSBC had a so-called window, Amana window, closed down the UK and 6 other countries. The main demand, as Rashid mentioned, from Islamic banking finance is mortgages, private mortgages. Well, a private mortgage in Islamic finance in the UK is way more expensive than a conventional one. So you say, okay, the UK not very convincing. But you say, okay, also not so long ago that Islamic finance is there. Now let's move to another country where they have gone to Islamic finance 30 years ago, Sudan. Sudan has switched the entire Islamic finance system of the country to Islamic finance back in 1982. So there are 30 years of experience there. And I happened to have visited the country end of 2011 on my world tour, and I was invited there by the boss of a subsidiary of the Central Bank of Sudan, who is issuing the government bonds for financing the government. And he made me meet officials at the central bank, bosses of big banks, and I've asked them the questions, but what did it change? You have Islamic finance, where are the results? Yeah, well, no good answers, right? Even microfinance is compulsory in Sudan to help to fight poverty. But even microfinance is underdeveloped there because conventional banks are not equipped to handle microfinance. Now you might say, okay, again, Sudan, difficult country, war, secession, whatever. Let's move to another country, Malaysia. Here in Malaysia, now we are going to smile, because here we are the leader of Islamic finance. So we have universities, we have the IFSB, the equivalent of the Basel Committee for Islamic finance there. We have the newly founded International Islamic Liquidity Management Corporation, which Luxembourg, by the way, is the only Western country which is part of that, which should provide liquidity for Islamic finance internationally. Now, what is the situation in Malaysia? What is the main result people can claim there is that now Haji put their savings in bank accounts, whereas before they were putting them under the mattress because it was haram not to put it into a normal bank account. And said and so on. Yeah, but that's it. Okay, so this is not very convincing. Then I also asked Professor Mohamed Patel, who is a Sharia compliant doctor in France. I asked him, what is the advantage of Islamic finance? And he said, but Muslims, they can comply with their religious duties. Really? Formally, yes. But I would challenge even this assumption, because if we look at the great scholar Al-Shatibi, who is from Andalus, he has written a book which is called Al-Mu'afakat, and in which he sets, it's a fiqh book, Islamic law treaty. And in this treaty he says, the guiding principle for the religious acts prescribed to man is to comply, indeed, without necessarily looking for the reasons. But this refers to acts such as prayer, fast, zakat, pilgrimage, right? For this type of things, you don't question the reasons. But he said, on the contrary, the guiding principle in the domain of business and transactions is precisely to seek out reasons, sense, logic. So formally, Islamic finance is pursuing those goals, but responsible ownership, do we see that? Solidarity? Well, you will tell me, but also I have had the opportunity to meet Professor Ahmed Kamil, who is the Dean of the Institute for Islamic Finance and Banking in Luxembourg. He has come to Paris in 2011. And what he said, well, Islamic finance is bound to converge with conventional finance. Because of what? Because it is using the same money, fiduciary money. Since you're using the same tool, you are bound to converge. Now, you could say that what some have called the Islamic law by said the Islamic finance in the UK is a failure. This was one of the articles which was like this, is because, indeed, to finance the UK real estate market, where there are tons of money that are printed by banks like this with the help of the central bank, is something which is very difficult to do. Because what is needed is not more money, it is affordable houses for ordinary men. And this, today, we don't have. So I went, because I heard this say by Professor Kamil, and I said, I will come to visit you. So I went to Kuala Lumpur, I made all the way there, it's only 12,000 kilometers, to so and visit him. And then I challenged him the whole morning about those ideas, because being myself a product of leading business schools, I was resisting his ideas to say, you can't have interest, this is bad, fiduciary money is bad. All my life I have been raising debt, very proud of that, and so I had difficulties to accept that. So I went to see him, and after one morning discussing, I must say, well, he has really a point. But I said, Professor, you are alone saying that. He said, no, I'm not alone. What are you talking about? Because I'm ignorant, I'm ignorant, right? He said, look, here there is Bernard Lietard, who is an ex-central bank member of Brussels, who is writing about complementary currency. He is Thomas Greco. You can Google those names. And you should read those books. You should read, by the way, The Future of Money by Bernard Lietaer. So I went home, did my homework, and found that indeed Bernard Lietaer is actually a follower of Silvio Gesell. Now, Silvio Gesell has been born not very far from here in Saint-Vith, in the German-speaking part of Belgium, 1862, passed away in 1930. So he has been quite an adventurer, went to Argentina, and there he has been confronted with the deflation. And when prices go down, something we might experience here, I hope not, because it's really terrible. Deflation is the worst thing that can happen in an economy. And when he looked at this, he became actually a thinker, and he wrote a book which is called The Natural Economic Order, where, in opposition to Karl Marx, he reckoned that human nature is motivated by self-interest, whereas Marx says we must change that in human beings. But Gesell said, no, you can't change that. But still, in his natural economic order, he called for the abolition of interest. But not only that, he said money should actually lose value over time. Why is that? Because it is to accelerate the speed of circulation of the money in the economy, which somehow stimulates the activity. In deflation, that's exactly what you need. And also what we need today, actually. But we have too much money, because too much debt is too much money. Right? So, also, Gesell was against, actually, rent charges. And he said, there is an imbalance between the trader and the owner of money, because the trader can not wait, because his goods will rot, whereas the owner of money can wait. So he has the premium, the liquidity premium. We all know about what the liquidity premium means, right? Now, of course, people at the time have laughed at him and said, what is this? And he was obviously an outcast, ended up in Germany and was even, had difficulties with the justice and everything else. But people have picked up his ideas. They even created a bank in 1932 in Switzerland, which is still in existence, which is called the Wir Bank, which has a currency, which has an ISO code, and which has given free, without free, you could say free loans without interest between 1932 and 1952. Now, after that, they have unfortunately introduced interest again. This bank is still in activity. 20% of all businesses in Switzerland are customers of that and are using it. And in 2009, where for everybody who has been in treasury and in cash has become scarce, the Wir has been a good alternative for those businesses. So those ideas are still along. Today also, we have the followers of Gesell, Bernard Lietaer, Margaret Kennedy. They are writing about this. And also in Luxembourg, we have a complementary currency that started on the 1st of January, or the 2nd actually, of this year, which is called the Beki. You might be able to look at this. So what I'm saying is that unlike Islamic finance looks at the money question, it is unlikely to make any difference in society at all. That's the first point. Now I'm saying that that's not all, because one should also challenge the current consensus about the economy. The Washington consensus, maximizing shareholders' value, profit, competition is good, greed is good even, they say in Wall Street. Would you teach your kids greed is good? I would not. So this is something where we say selfishness, the invisible hand, this is the good for all. This is something we should challenge. Now you might say, well, but it works. If you read The Economist, they keep telling you it works. And indeed it does. To some extent. To what extent? Well, we have now, our billionaires have become even more billionaires. And now we have even new billionaires. In China, 100 billionaires. In India, 100 billionaires. I don't know how many there are in Russia. But the 100 billionaires in China and the 100 billionaires in India, they cohabit with 1 billion people that are living with $1 to $2 per day. Now, for some, it has worked very well. For most, what the concrete result is destruction of the environment. If you go to China, if you go to Beijing or to Shanghai, you will see what it means having thick air, really, literally thick air. You can't see through it, right? That's how you have created 100 billionaires. Now, also, we have today 25,000 people dying from hunger every day. Yeah, we can look at, we have here somebody in Luxembourg called Jean Feder, ex-ambassador to the UN. He has written a book called Mordshunger, German, La faim tue in French, which explains that actually malnutrition is not decreasing anymore since the middle of the last decade, 2004, 2005. Malnutrition is increasing again. When wealth has never been so much, actually malnutrition is increasing. And this has to do with competition and profit. Because profit, we determine it always in monetary terms. Profit is, typically, when you look at an economic definition, it is what remains after you have deducted the cost from the revenue. But actually, you could also say profit is not only that, because to profit is also to benefit, to have an advantage. You could say, you have made a discovery trip and you have had a profit of it, which is not a financial profit, which is knowledge, which is well-being of people. And in French, we say bénéfice, which is the contrary of maléfice, something which is good versus something which is bad. Or in Italy, they say utile, something which is useful. Right? Now, how do we differentiate from producing tobacco and healthy food? When you look at monetary terms, the profit that you produce is the same. Well, it's actually much more on tobacco, to be frank. Right? But we all know that this generates massive externalities in terms of health. Now, to measure that, there is now a way to do this, which I wanted to introduce to you, which is the ideas of Christian Felber. Now, Christian Felber is an Austrian who has actually found this device, or has launched the idea, and they have other people now that have taken up the idea of economy for the common good, which actually produces a balance sheet that rates companies according to how much they produce for society. So they are basically, it's a matrix, right? So you have on the horizontal axis, you have human values, solidarity, ecological sustainability, social justice, and democratic participation and transparency. And on the vertical value, you have the stakeholders, which are the suppliers, the providers of money, the employees, that should include the owners. Owners are not perceived only as providers of money. Customers, products, business environment, and also negative criteria, such as externalities, planned obsolescence. Some companies produce products that are planned to become obsolete after 2-3 years. And look at the iPhone, when you can change the battery. So what this model says, it gives actually a rating of a company that qualifies how much it produces for common good rather than just for profit. This model actually promotes cooperation instead of competition and common good instead of financial profit. Now, I'm coming to the end of my speech, but before concluding, I would like to say that I would not be here standing in front of you if I had not dared to challenge my own assumptions and beliefs about finance. Islamic finance is indeed a nice label, especially when you are Muslim. But does it deliver? Is it enough? You might not be happy with what your bank or your company does to the world. Remember the hadith. If you see an injustice, change it with your hand. If you can't, with your tongue. And if you can't, don't accept it in your heart. Now, if it is to do Islamic finance to buy a good conscience, like the old days when the Catholic Church was selling indulgences to buy St. Peter, I'd rather not do it. Challenge injustice and the current economic order that is massively unjust is what a true Muslim, and in fact any truly human being, should do. Thank you.